So the god of Lord of Sur jumped up saying, my bow, my bow. Lakshmana Dehu, give it to me. Dehu is imperative. Lakshmana is a branch form of Lakshman. And here we move to Yashoda again. Janani, his mother. Brambai, she's completely lost. She's completely in Brahm. So, what happens here? Have you got any idea what happens? How to explain what happens in the last two lines of this poem?
It was a lullaby in the beginning.
It was a lullaby, yes, very sweet lullaby. So
And
what
then
happened?
he got his emotion back and just became Lakshman. I need to save Sita.
Yes, that is one way. No, he didn't become Lakshman. He became Ram. He says, Lakshman, give me the bow.
Yeah.
But so that's one way of interpreting it. It's very natural, right? The young boy gets
Excited.
Yes, excited by that story. But another way would be
Women
to
being saved. Were women being saved again by a man? Something like that?
no.
Let's not go there.
Let's not go there.
This is bhakti. This is bhakti.
Exactly, yeah, you can, I mean, we are talking here about, we don't know exactly when Surdas lived, but it would be 16th, 17th century max. You cannot apply ideas that we may have now. But actually, what happened, you can interpret that in that way, and then it's pure, love, and his mother is confused, but there can be a theological meaning to it, because he does not just get excited, he is an avatar of Vishnu himself. So he remembers, right? And what happens here is that we, the audience, are also reminded who that sweet little boy in his cradle is. All of a sudden, and he comes suddenly, right in the middle of the line. And another piece of information, his mom doesn't understand anything. She's completely confused. And I'll go back to her feelings. But what happens here is something that Ken Bryan has identified in other places as an epiphany. And many of the padas are structured in that way. They start with an elaboration of the feeling, like here, the parental love in the very beginning, the mother is telling a sweet story to her son, only to bring towards the end of the pada, as a sort of zoom out, the cosmic significance of what is happening in front of our eyes. So the poet brings us into the scene, really makes us see through the eyes of Yashoda and feel the feelings of Yashoda, and then all of a sudden, boom, shows us that actually what's happening, it's not a boy, it's the absolute incarnated, it's God here, it's the same. And Yashoda is completely confused.
Because she doesn't know.
She doesn't know. But there is also a theological significance to that. Because Yashoda is totally devoted to her son, right? She's the paradigmatic mother. No mother loves her son more than she does. And that love is absolutely sufficient. She doesn't need to know more. So in a way, that last line establishes the supreme quality of bhakti, the fact that bhakti is what matters most, not knowledge. So the audience is brought to seeing the larger picture. The audience is brought to a sort of epiphany, to a sort of darshan, right? That encompasses not only the scene but the universe. But Yashoda is not She stays exactly where she is, and that is perfect. She doesn't need to go into anything else because her love is so perfect. She doesn't need to know. Yes.
I wanted to remind everyone that this is the perspective. We are seeing these padas through Surdas's words, but on the other side, we need to remind ourselves that Surdas was a blind, right?
That's okay. The blindness of Surdas also has a significance of its own. Of course, it's very much part of the narrative. We don't know much about Surdas. There is a hagiography that is linked to the community of Vallabhacharya. There are actually 2 huge volumes of hagiographies called the Chaurasi Vaishnavanki Varta and the Dosu Bhavan Vaishnavanki Varta, and the Varta of Surdas is among them because he's supposed to have been part of that community. And we're not even sure about that. It's also possible that the Vallabha Sampradaya, after the death of Surdas, kind of involved him because he was somebody famous and popular. He had acquired followers of his own at that time. But, so there is this story about the blindness of Surdas. Actually, what the text says about him is that he was born without eyes. He was so blind that he even didn't have eyes. Of course, when he's represented in pictorials, he usually has some eyes, though the blindness is always accentuated. And this blindness has a meaning. If he was blind, it was because he had eyes only for what matters. He didn't have eyes for
Material
this
world.
which is an illusion, right? He only had eyes for what matters, and with those eyes, he saw very well. Actually, each of these padas is a vision of his that he transmitted to us. So it's not just by chance that he was blind. There is meaning in the narrative about Surdas induces meaning into the blindness. So it's ideological blindness in a way.
Uninterrupted vision.
Yes.
Uninterrupted vision of the Krishna that he only wants to be in that world.
Yeah.
So that he distracts him.
Yeah.
With the motive of the blindness.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So the bhav in the last line is also the same bhav when Krishna opens his mouth to show the universe, and then Yashoda says,
exactly.
Yeah,
That
you
is
have shown it to me, but I do not want to know that.
Exactly. That is actually there is a pada retelling that story, and that is something that is also in the Ramayana or the Ramcharitmanas. There is a similar scene. So yes, the feeling is exactly the same. You are very correct in that. The bhakti supersedes. It's a way of saying, of illustrating that bhakti supersedes everything, and including knowledge. Women are incapable of knowledge, of course, we know that. So the good of bhakti is that bhakti is accessible to everyone, right? Yashoda is a paradigmatic bhakt. She is to be emulated now. We should learn from her love for her son. But she doesn't understand anything, and always good, the way it is. Okay? All right, so, yeah,
You were good.
I know.